Hello, my name is Professor Akia with the second biggest Korean movie of this summer called Northern Limit Line or 연평해전 in Korean. It is a Korean right-wing propaganda movie based on action events. For those who are new to this channel, I talk about new, hot Korean movies that are currently showing in Korean theaters right now.
Introduction.
Movies based on historical or real-life events can be a tricky thing to pull off because of the whole real adjective. Just the act of fitting events into the movie format requires the use of creative license, making the movie interesting enough so that people will cough up enough cash to make the movie's bottom line deep generously into the black requires more creative license. If I think about it, it may not be fair to judge a movie based on its historical accuracy. At the same time, it may not also be fair to give a movie a pass just because it is portraying a historic event that one thinks is important. It is complicated. Because of these issues, I'm just going to judge the movie based on the movie itself. And sadly, Northern Limit Line makes this actually too easy.
The plot.
Northern Limit Line is based on real events that happened in 2002. On the 29th of June that year, there was a naval skirmish between South Korean and North Korean ships following North Korea's incursion into South Korea's waters. The English title of this movie, Northern Limit Line, refers to this ocean borders. In this skirmish, 6 sailors were killed and another 19 were injured just on the southern side. This event is called the Second Battle of Yongpyeong, which the Korean movie title just dropped the second part. The movie is somewhat of an ensemble movie following a few members of the fateful ship's crew. Doomed ship crew, because the ship was sunk at the end of the movie. Spoilers! I know this is somewhat of a spoiler, but it is based on historic events after all. Go Google it. So I do not really care. And in addition, Northern Limit Line is a type of movie that is made based on assumption that its audience already knows the tragic fate of the characters involved. Thus, it works best when you already know the story.
How to be lazy on the job.
Have you ever come out of a movie theater being confident that you know what was going on in the head of the writer's brain while the script was being written? It happens to me a lot, especially with Korean movies, as their scripts not only need a lot more work done on them, but need a few more fresh eyeballs on them before getting the green light to go ahead. Northern Limit Line is also a movie that falls into this category. It really needed a page 1 rewrite. You start with the final battle in the third act with all of its valiant sacrifice and tragic deaths. This is your money shot. You can expect the Korean audience, who already knows what happens, to cry a small lake of tears even if you just put the bare minimum of actual story effort into it. So you liberally copy the third act battle of Saving Private Ryan, and you got your third act. But what about the other 2 acts prior to the third act? At this point, you are rather stuck. You have to fill in about 100 more minutes of this movie and do not have much to go on in terms of plot, considering nothing much happened prior to the climax of the movie. The only thing you really have to go on are the so-called real life characters you just killed off, or at least wounded in the third act? Why you expect Koreans to instantly care about these characters on the basis of their real life counterparts? You decide to put in some effort into actually making the characters, making the audience care about the characters on merits alone? I mean, you need to fill in the runtime somehow, after all. This means looking into who these real life people were, right? However, that would require more effort that you would want to put in. Why try to tell an actual human story when you have a guarantee that people will cry at the end even if the characters are just cartoon scribbles? So, you take the easy route and cram at least 3 war movies worth of cliche characters in a single ship of 27 men. To be more specific, all of these cliches are compressed into the 3 main characters, as the other members of the crew basically have no characterization at all. I have no idea who those dudes are and what they do or did. Among the main characters, there is the incompetent medic, who is basically a clone of the character Upham from Saving Private Ryan. I did say that the Spielberg movie is a huge influence on this movie. He is also the new guy and knows nothing but nice guy. He is also the audience stand-in character who introduces the audience to the world of the movie. Wow. So much cliche packed into one character. And he's not alone. And he is also the most boring character among the main 3. The second main character is the guy for whom being a sailor is everything. He is also the guy who suffers from handshakes for no reason and hides it even though it might endanger his crew. He is also the soon-to-be father, and also the a few weeks away from shore duty guy. The third main character is the captain of the boat, who is the new by-the-book captain assigned to a troubled ship. He is also the rogue firebrand captain, constantly confronting his superiors. He is also the son of a wrongfully disgraced former Navy officer who has a chip on his shoulder and has something to prove. Wow, that's a lot.
Why does a movie need arcs?
Having very, very cliche characters, even to the degree of Northern Limit Line, does not mean that one cannot do something interesting with them. As with many other genres, the war movie genre has its own considerable amount of cliche that many movies are not free from. The problem with Northern Limit Line is that the movie has no real arcs. More accurately, it fails to properly develop any of the cliche arcs. It's set up by cramming so much cliche into the 3 main characters. In terms of the overall story arc, the movie seems to set up a return to grace arc, with a new by-the-book captain taking command of a ragtag group of misfits. Think Mikhail's Navy from 1962 or Down Periscope from 1996. It is a common story arc. As a result, a large portion of the movie feels like a goofy comedy, which does not really mesh well with the tragic drama portions of the movie. In a way, it feels rather disrespectful to make the sailors into goofball, incompetent people, but I said that I am not going into the whole historical accuracy debate. And this is not the biggest problem of the movie. The main problem with this story arc is that the second act of this 3-act movie never actually contributes to the development of the story arc. It is just filler. You have random gags inserted here and there. You have characters on random side plots that have no impact on the overall plot in the name of character building. The problem with this is that there is not much of a character to build upon in the first place. So you are just left thinking, why am I watching this dull shit beep? Anyway, What is weirder is that once the story enters the third act, but before the climatic events happen, the movie assumes that this story arc is already wrapped up. It acts as if the crew is now a well-oiled machine under the leadership of a new captain. However, we did not see this actually happen in the movie. In other words, the story arc is missing its main body section. This is the same for the main three cliche-filled main characters, as none of their individual character arcs actually get a main body section. The new idiot medic somehow overcomes getting bullied and is now accepted by the crew. The handshake guy has decided to just transfer to shore duty and forget about being an active sailor and is now awaiting a new baby. The captain, I do not know what happens with that guy. The movie even creates a totally fictional female captain for him to interact with, a full decade prior to the Korean Navy actually doing this in real life, and the movie actually does nothing with the two. I would even accepted a silly romance at this point. Overall, I think that the movie had no idea what to do with anything beyond the actual Navy conflict. I mean, the movie actually has about 15 minutes dedicated to characters either watching or talking about the 2002 Korean-Japan Soccer World Cup. The movie even shows about 5 minutes worth of stock news broadcast footage about the athletic event. While there are some story-related reasons to include this, and I know that Koreans get worked up by this type of event, there's no story reason for it to be the central part of the movie. This is just a poor attempt to fill in time.
Naval combat.
While the bulk of the movie is rather just boring and a waste of time, the time spent on the actual naval incident is, at the minimum, interesting. Even during the first and second acts, there are some interesting scenes involving the Navy actually doing Navy stuff without any goofy comedy. However, they are far and few between. This actually changes when the movie enters its third act. The movie becomes primarily about the Navy aspect, which is a welcome change. You get to see how the overall series of events led to the tragic events of this movie, and this is even before shots are fired. The actual final combat scenes are pretty fun overall, as we basically see two small ships open fire at each other in relatively short ranges. The explosions and the overall action choreography is pretty decent for a movie that has several crises related to its funding running out. If you think about it, the movie does a great job at spreading the few bucks it had around to make the movie at least look realistic. Setting aside the flashy lights and sounds, the final naval battle is something new, something fresh. The South Korean ship involved is a high-speed patrol boat with a crew of 27 sailors. This is small for Navy standards. Most war movies focus on naval battles or between larger battleships, or at least destroyers. It is a fun time. However, this part of the movie is not without its problems. First, the movie is not able to consistently differentiate its Navy battle from the typical movie ground battle after the first few shots are fired. As a result, the movie reminds me of the last ground battle of Saving Private Ryan a lot. As a side note, the new medic character is as useless as Upham was in that movie, but he at least doesn't get people killed. Second, the battle seems over-exaggerated for what it actually was. From how it is portrayed in the movie, it feels as if there were at least 100 sailors on the boat and most of them got killed. However, in reality, when the dust is settled, there were only 27 on the boat and only 6 actually got killed. Third, the movie creates a fictional bad guy on the side of the North Koreans for the purpose of simplifying the story. Leaving aside the fact that this is a really low-bar move, the movie does not do much with him. A similar thing happened with the Admiral. Roaring Currents from 2014, and it didn't work then also. This should not be a surprise since all North Koreans feel like Roger Moore era Bond villains in this movie.
The end.
In many ways, Northern Limit Line is somewhat of a socially important movie in Korea. This is because Northern Limit Line is a right-wing propaganda movie to promote the view that the valiant sacrifices of the Korean military should be celebrated. In other words, it is pro-military and anti-communist. Both subjects are tricky. Mainstream Korea and Korean entertainment industry have been anti-military and pro-communist for more than a decade and a half blatantly. So basically, even before the real-life events this movie is based on occurred, as a result, this movie had a very difficult time getting made. However, it does not change the fact that Northern Limit Line is not a great movie. From the point of cohesive storytelling, the movie fails. However, a few interesting combat scenes do save it from being a total waste of time. In other words, it falls straight down the middle of have serious problems but has enough interesting stuff to make it worth watching at least once movie category. Northern Limit Line is a propaganda movie that needs propaganda to make people actually see it, which somewhat contradicts the purpose of making the movie in the first place. I might be a little too generous, but I will give Northern Limit Line or 연평해전 a grade of C or 4.5 out of 10. This was Professor Akia, and thanks for watching this review. Next time I'll come back with a Korean left-wing propaganda movie, The Assassination. And so have a nice day. Please subscribe, share, like, comment, and visit my blog.